The guys who are vying for that position are Dejan Lane and Antoine Belgrave Shorter. Those are the guys that have taken snaps outside of Wheatley so far and have rotated. In week 1, it was Lane who was the starter off the reserve off the bench to give Wheatley a spell. And then Belgrave Shorter was the other guy this week. And that did interfere in some of his reps because how it worked out, the drive that Dejan Lane was playing the field safety position was one in the fourth quarter where he played 13 straight snaps. Penn State generally does not substitute its secondary mid-drive. They keep those guys in place, and then they'll swap guys out, for third down defense in the past or some other situation. So that battle, I think, is also ongoing of who's going to be the guy behind Wheatley. But those are the names. Like, there are 4 names that we're dealing with here. And then the way King Mack played, I think he deserves to get a larger piece of the conversation about playing at that strong safety position where he played and made some of those plays that we saw from him last week.
It's fun, isn't it? We were talking in August about position battles going into the first 3 weeks of the season, and now that they're not resolved 2/3 of the way through the first 3 weeks of the season, it was like, what's wrong? Here's what's happening. But those guys do need more work. It's going to come from those 4, I believe. I thought we would see more Torre last week based on some of the stuff we saw against Nevada and some of the practice, but I think he is limited in what he can do. In certain spots, you mentioned he's only played one of the roles. Belgrave Shorter played, I think, 34 snaps against Nevada, but they switched him around and made him be versatile and play both spots. So I think that goes into it as well. And I think it's going to come from those first 4 guys. It's cutting teeth, man. That's what we're watching right now. And it's in one element, it's fun to watch. In the big picture element, it's fun to watch. Down to down, maybe not as fun. Somebody mentioned that Dejan Lane hasn't looked good. His processing has led to him playing slower, and him playing slower has led to him taking some angles that are probably not against him. I think he was in the backfield a few times, made some plays there. But just looking at what he's got, you've got a little bit of linebacker showing through, I think.
Yeah, he's a little aggressive, pulling himself out of coverage positions, and that lack of awareness, kind of moving around when he doesn't need to, has led to opportunities that the other team can't really capitalize on. And here's a good thing, because there are 4 defensive linemen in the guy's face most of the time. Does that happen later on in the year? And that's really what Penn State has to judge of trusting players in situations of it's not going to be ideal where, okay, a guy who's on a crossing route doesn't get picked up immediately. It does this pressure, which results in a throwaway, then result in a completion later. These are the things they've got to tighten up and figure out who they trust in those situations.
Have you heard of Way Fruit Farm? It's this great farm market bakery and cafe. You can shop with them either at their farm in Port Matilda or downtown State College.
No way.
Yes, Way Fruit Farm. They have all sorts of seasonal fruits and veggies.
Way cool.
No, Way Fruit Farm. But anyway, you should visit their bakery and cafe. They serve amazing food all day.
Way
Fruit Farm.
We mentioned receiver glancingly. Are you surprised, or do you think it's necessary for them to get some of those young guys into the rotation? Because people are looking for something to elevate the receiver room, to elevate the passing attack, which hasn't been explosive, as we've talked about.
Have we?
Is that an antidote? Is that an antidote to the situation? It seems like what they're trying to do is, hey, these are the 4 guys we want to make sure that this passing game circles around, and we're going to make sure that works first. So how have you viewed the process there of those 6 guys turning into 4?
I don't think that Taseer Denmark and Kobe Howard fundamentally change what you're doing in the passing game. And I think the passing game's issues really haven't been as much on the receivers as they've been in past years. And because of that, you want to get those 3 transfers healthy. You're going to continue to rep Liam Clifford in as a run blocker, basically, and sort of go from there and go with those 4 guys that you're comfortable with. I would like to see more of those 2 on the field in situations, but I think it was a scenario just like we talked about with some other positions, is they wanted to play more of those guys against FIU. The situation did not dictate it because they weren't scoring the points that they needed to score. I think they'll have that opportunity this weekend. I think we'll see both of those guys. But in terms of, because someone
seeing
mentioned
them with Aller, I think, is part of it too. Not just seeing them late in the game, but also seeing them as part of the first team offense. Because even in these situations, they haven't cycled in when Penn State's up with the starting unit. And I guess that's the part I'm interested in of, Franklin talked about Kobe Howard burning his red shirt and the process that needs to happen for that to be valuable. And it sounds like even if he were to be valuable on special teams, it doesn't necessarily equate to a large role on offense. So I guess it just, that whole who are the starters, not just seeing those guys on the field, has been a bit of a rollback from what we said. If they felt like they had 6 receivers and they felt good about that depth. And we're really focusing on those 4 guys at the top.
Yeah, and youth matters. Like you've got some pop in those guys, specifically Kobe Howard. But as the guy says in the chat here, Kobe Howard caused big plays. You don't know that. Like you feel like that could potentially happen, but you haven't seen it. You don't know that. And I think that the stuff that they see from practice to practice, day to day, would really go into this is what they do from a rotational standpoint. Like this is what they're comfortable with. And if Howard can be that guy, or could be Jeremiah Smith, he'd be in the game. Like that's a little bit different. So I think it's more of a comfort of the unknown more so than anything. Like we did this with Denmark all last year, and he caught 2 or 3 passes. I think it's a situation where you don't know, or you like what you don't know, and then you see those guys, and you're like, okay, well, that didn't fundamentally change some things. And yeah, it's like Nate's theory a couple of weeks ago. There's only enough snaps, like there's only enough reps to go around, and you want to get Ross ready. Like that was an emphasis last week. I think it was pretty clear of an emphasis last week. You want to get those 3 guys on the page with Drew Aller, because that's the stuff that matters against Oregon, against Ohio State, against these Big Ten teams. Is how does that passing game work with them out there? I just don't see the gap being covered by those 2 guys to make this a completely explosive offense, or to make it a completely functional offense. I think that the receivers, specifically the transfer receivers, have been fine with that.
Yeah. And also, when we're talking about the passing offense and distributing snaps to all the positions, if you're now talking about 5 receivers, and we'll just, for the fantasy, take out Liam Clifford from the conversation and insert Kobe Howard, Tyseer, Denmark. Now you got 5 receivers, you've got 2 tight ends minimum, and you've got 2 running backs. That is too many mouths to feed. So I think also from a overall target distribution priority, they're in a good spot right now. Devontae Ross hasn't got as much work maybe as the other top 2 receivers, but part of that was shifting the plan last week in the second half for a bunch of game flow reasons. So I guess the last thing, we're coming up to the end of the show. I want to circle back personally. Sorry, go ahead.
We got a quick circle back here. You look at the snaps that Khalil Dinkins and Luke Reynolds have played as well. That's going to impact receiver snaps. It's going to impact, it's sort of going to have a ripple effect on everyone in the passing game. I think you're pretty pleased with those 2 right now, and Andrew Rappelier as well. But I think I remember 74 snaps for Dinkins, 73 snaps for Luke Reynolds. So a lot of different personnel groupings. They've played 3 tight ends, so I think it's going to cut down on that. And also, usually when subs happen at wide receiver during the drive, it's because somebody's run deep and they tap out. That's the kind of thing we haven't really seen a ton of.
Yeah, and playing 2 tight ends a lot also then allows you to take one of those receivers off the field and not replace them with another receiver. Now that we're here to the end of the show, a couple minutes here to talk about how it happens this weekend for Penn State football. Fitz, give me your score prediction, how you think this game is going to go.
What a remarkable rundown you put together, because you put the scores for Ryan, you, and I all in there, and we all have Penn State scoring 52 points. It's amazing, because I didn't look at your I don't think your prediction was in when I put mine in. I didn't even look at Ryan's and Greg's and those things. But 52 seems to be the lucky number. 52-6 is what I have. I think they continue to work on the things that they're going to work on. I think it has the ability to be a game where they come out and they make some mistakes. They don't get a 3rd down or something like that, and there's frustration early. But I think that once you get through the big get over the hump in the first quarter or whatever it's going to be, then I think Penn State rolls.
I want to circle back to the offensive line conversation and Penn State versus the Villanova defense, because I think it's the most interesting of the matchups, because it's a pretty standard spread offense for Villanova, and Penn State's defense is designed to go ahead. You were going to say something?
Yeah. I mean, I think you should clarify. Are you saying against Villanova's defense or against Villanova's scheme? Because I think that's an important
scheme.
Yeah. That's
absolutely
what I thought you were talking about. And I think that's the important part when you're working on things like the running game is to differentiate between the players in the scheme.
Yeah. So the scheme is the most interesting aspect of this, where it's something that is going to challenge the mental side of things for the Penn State offense. The defense is largely built to stop what they're going to see this weekend, so I think we're going to see just like trying to be sharper at all those things. On the offensive side of the ball, what James Franklin, you can go check out his press conference here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel when we discussed this with him after practice. But what he was saying is essentially they can create chaos because of their alignment and the way that they are playing their style, given they don't have dominant defensive linemen, and they need to do something extra to frustrate and confuse the opponent. Confusion leads to hesitancy. Hesitancy leads to a lack of domination. So everyone in the chat that says, like, Penn State, I want Penn State to smash people, and just like, you got to be dominant. On that basic level of your first snap off the ball, of just rocking the dude in front of you, yes, I agree with you. But when it comes to a process, you want to make sure you're going to find the right guy. He's where you expect him to be, and you make that block, because if you don't do that and you just maul one dude, it's still a 4-yard gain. Right. That is where I think this is going to be a good test to see how they come out and attack this, because confusion, movement, and trying to get free guys into the backfield based on mental errors is the point of the Oregon defensive front. So I'm not saying that they run this defense, and I'm not saying that what they do today is going to directly relate to what they do against Oregon. It's the idea of making sure that post-snap, you are on your details, whatever that assignment is from this particular look. And that shows, like, for a veteran unit that's been together for a couple of years, I think that's absolutely something that they need to be able to do in this game to show the confidence to come out and say, okay, we know they're doing something we don't see often, but we're going to be able to handle it. And here's like a big run, because we are both mentally and physically dominant to what we're up against. Ryan's score here, as we get out of here, 52-7, as Fitz alluded to. Everyone put 52 points. Fitz, I was a little gun shy, because the number of times that I've said, like, yeah, almost 60 in this game, and then James Franklin's like, yeah, we're working on stuff, and they're scoring 34 points. So I went, 7 touchdowns plus a field goal. And the defense, even when they've been, working on stuff, has given up 3 points with the starters and 0 points with the starters. So I went 3. I would have gone 1.5, right, if I just averaged out the 2 games for the starters. So that's my score there.
Yeah, I think the thing that you forget, they scored 46 points against Nevada and didn't look their crisp. Now, they scored on most of their drives. I think they had a couple at the end where they didn't score. And you want those to be touchdowns instead of field goals, but still, you can pile up 46 points. I think with an FCS team coming to town, there's no real excuse for that. It is funny. I had one vision there when you were talking about lining up and destroying the guy in front of you, and coming out with that intensity and everything like that. So we just did Tavian Branch's commitment video this week, and there is one play where he blindsides the guy, a blindside like the movie Blindside, where he drives the guy off basically to the sideline, and it looks really cool. And it was like a 4-yard gain on a wide receiver screen. So like there's everything that goes into play here from an execution standpoint. Yes, you can blow your guy off your ball. You can have a wonderful rep, but if everybody's not functioning at the same time, you get a 4-yard gain on a wide receiver screen. So I think that's kind of what you're getting at here. Is the execution is the key thing. It's not yourself. It's not the opponent. It's doing your job and seeing the results of that flourish. And I think that's been the frustrating part watching Penn State this year, is that it hasn't come together from that aspect.